Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Eric Espy. I work here for CMU Online. I'm the Recruitment and Student Success Manager. Really happy for you all to join us today at lunchtime, East Coast time. Could be a different time if you're in a different time zone, but we're really excited to have this Student Spotlight webinar for the Managing AI Systems. I'm joined by Ray and Julia, who are currently in the program, going to be finishing soon though, so that's good news. We're excited to introduce both of them later in the slides here. But right at the start here, we're just going to kick off with just a better understanding of CMU Online. So I know some of you have been in touch with my team. As you can see, Joe, who is also our program specialist for the program, is here. He might have been already in talks with you already about the program. But if you're unfamiliar with CMU Online, we are a collection of cutting-edge online graduate certificate programs. So as you can see, the program that we're going over today, Managing AI Systems, is just one of 7 that we currently have in our arsenal. Some of those subjects go over foundations of data science, generative AI, 3D bioprinting, AI engineering fundamentals, and we'll continue to grow in these subject areas. And as you can see, we have a theme of AI, which has been a really great way for working professionals to take these certificates and gain a one-up and start implementing those skills and competencies directly into the work in their workplace. So that's just a little intro to CMU Online. Now, kind of building upon CMU Online, we did want to point out some of these core areas and features that really set us apart from other certificates. The first being is that even though this is a certificate, these are graduate level credit bearing courses. So that's a huge draw for many of the prospective students that myself and Joe are talking to on a day-to-day basis. It's a really big draw that, even though this is a certificate, it's fully online, you're still taught by full-fledged CMU faculty, and you're getting those fully fledged credit-bearing courses. So when you do finish these, you're not only just getting a certificate, you're going to be getting an official transcript with grades and these courses that come along with it. So it's a huge draw for many of our students that are pursuing these certificates. Second, I mentioned this in passing, but faculty experts in learning experience. So it's reassuring if you're kind of diving into more of the details of this program in particular. We worked with learning engineers here at CMU and the faculty themselves that are teaching the program to make sure that we're using and leveraging the best practices when it comes to online environments to make sure that you're getting the most cutting edge content possible as an online learner. So this has been a highly curated program that has been meant for and designed for the full-time working professional, which most of you are. Most of the students that are in this program, they are going to be working full-time. They want to balance this with their current, obviously just not just their professional commitments, but also commitments outside of the program itself. So that's really why we wanted to build this, so that you don't have to sacrifice those areas of your life to be able to gain this upskill. And I'm sure some of you might have talked to Joe about this already, but a big draw that we also have that builds upon CMU Online is that we have weekly live classes. So this is not just going to be fully self-paced where you're kind of a lone wolf doing this coursework by yourself at night after work. We do have live class sessions that are held weekly, and this is a great way for you to interact with your fellow classmates and also the faculty and instructors that are teaching the program. So this has been a really big benefit for this certificate in particular. Okay, now we can move on. Just a brief program overview. I know, again, many of you might have researched this already, so I'll be quick here. But for the Managing AI Systems Graduate Certificate, really this is for managers or leaders who are really in need of a guide of AI strategy, but knowing that you're not a technical expert when it comes to AI. So that's been a huge draw for many of our students taking this certificate, is for the non-technical leader that's looking to leverage AI to implement change in their organization. And also the second point kind of drills on that as well, as you're really wanting to connect AI to projects and business goals for ROI purposes. And then we have some students that really want to take this because they want to understand the risks of AI, the ethics, the governance of AI, if you're going to implement that at work. That's been a huge draw for many of our students. And then some of the areas or things that you're going to be learning, how AI strategy aligns with an organizational goal or objective, what is the full process of an AI project? I think this is a big one. So starting from collecting the data, choosing the right model, testing it, and putting it into action. Those are things that we're going over in this program. I mentioned this already. We do a good job of recognizing risks, ethical concerns when leveraging AI, and also how do you lead organizational change by fostering a culture that actually embraces AI innovation. This has been a fast-moving subject area, as I'm sure many of you have known. So how do you get your organization to embrace that AI innovation piece? Okay. Also, we just wanted to, in this slide, kind of give a brief breakdown of how the courses actually work. So this is simulating if you are planning to apply for our next start date, which is going to be in the spring of 2026. So how this works is you're going to be taking AI Foundations to start. That is for anybody. So whenever you start the program, you start with AI Foundations, and then you're also going to be taking another course. In this case, it's going to be operationalizing AI systems. Then in the next semester, we do have a summer semester. So you just segue into the next term, and that's going to be responsible AI. And then for fall of 2026, you're going to be in building the AI organization. Julia, you and Ray are both going to be done by this point. So that's crazy to see that this is just the new generation of managing AI systems certificates. So that's cool. All right, to the meat and potatoes of this session. Really excited again, Ray, you and Julia joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us a little bit more about your experience in the program so far. So we can go to the next slide and just jump into individual introductions. Ray, thank you so much for joining us again. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about your background and what really brought you to the certificate?
Absolutely. So welcome everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Raymond Chick, and I'm just closing in on finishing this certificate and part of the first cohort. So I'm excited about that. Um, and my background is in IT and information security, so I do have somewhat of a technical background. But I found the program very interesting, from an AI perspective and from being offered by Carnegie Mellon. I knew the program was going to be excellent, right? And so yeah, I've been working in IT for about 25 years, and mostly in the last 20 years, really focusing on security and identity and access management. Um, so there wasn't a lot going on in AI, in at least in my experience last year, but it's ramping up significantly now. So it's very interesting for me.
Excellent. Thanks, Ray. And I have to ask, BA in music, what is your go-to instrument? What are you a master at, if you had to choose?
The go-to instrument for me is guitar.
All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it. All right. Next slide. Julia, thanks for joining us. Same thing. You want to give us a brief introduction? What brought you to the cert?
Sure, happy to. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. What brought me to this program is really about the role that I'm in today. So, my entire career has been in human resources, change management. And about 2 years ago, I was given the opportunity and the privilege to build out our AI Center of Excellence, in part because I am just very curious person and got very interested in Gen AI and did some self-learning to help understand change management impacts at that point in time for my company. And also in part because we recognize that we have a lot of technical expertise within Highmark, but we know that the real value in this technology is really centered around how people use it. So combining the people and the technology is really kind of the core of our AI Center of Excellence. In order for me to have some street cred and be able to ask the right questions, I thought this program would just give me some additional knowledge, as well as a broader network than what I have today. And so yeah, that's what brought me here and what I do here today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great.
Mhm.
and we're going to dive into some questions. So a lot of you, we talk to prospective students every single day, and we built these questions because these are very common questions that we get from folks as far as the student experience. So Ray, do you want to start us off with answering how have you juggled work, classes, other commitments throughout the program? I think I heard a saying the other day where online programs are convenient, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's easy. So I'd love to hear your perspective on how you're juggling those things.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. And to be fair, right, I took this year off. So I don't, I can't say I'm juggling it the way that many others are. Um, but with that said, I came into this program with zero AI experience. I simply wasn't paying attention to AI. I was focused on my work and what I was doing. And so that can be good and bad. I think it was good that I came in, so whatever I learned here, right? Which is a lot. But yeah, there's two courses at the beginning, and so that's a lot, going on at one time. And I mean, I tried to carve out probably 10 or 12 hours a week just to focus on this program. Um, and to get up to speed, I haven't been in school for 20 years, so that was a little bit of a concern. So, there's time to ramp up with the tools and the technology like Slack and Canvas and Zoom and what have you. Um, so one thing I did was, used AI honestly a lot to help me to research topics and work on assignments and projects and as well learn the AI tools. So I think they're really invaluable. You can get a lot of insight and make a lot of headway quickly by using AI. I like to, I move a little slower. I like to mull over the material and read it and listen to it many times, let it sink in, But so I took it with me everywhere. I mean, I had the course on my MacBook, on my iPhone. So whether I was in the living room or going to the beach, believe it or not, I could do a lesson. Um, I also made a habit of creating podcasts. I would take the PDFs from the class, turn them into podcasts and take them on the road, whether I'm taking a road trip or biking or walking or whatever, just listen to it, and let it sink in. Um, but I think it's important to set aside, carve out enough time, especially to get off to a good start, because with the two classes, it is a lot to cover. Yeah.
That's great. The podcast, genius idea. I like
Yeah.
that. Um, Julia, what about you?
Ray, you are so creative. And I also want to just give Ray some additional credit here. I remember, so Ray and I have been on a couple group projects together at this point as well. And I think there was one group assignment, Ray, where you were on the phone with us at like 6 in the morning your time or 5 in the morning your time, so that we could work around our schedules. So that's another way I think, juggling your time commitments. We're working with people across the world here. So if you're on a group project, you've got to have ways that you're flexible to get that work done. Um, but I agree with Ray, setting aside probably a solid 10 hours a week at least to get through the work is really important. For me, I have a really hard time at the end of my workday trying to learn something new. My brain is, I always say it's jello at that point. And so I did a couple of things. One, I'm fortunate enough that my employer offers me paid time off. And so every 2 months at least, I would take a day off on a Friday. And that would be like a catch up day or just like a mental health day for me, so that I could balance all of my commitments. And then I also made a pact with my husband at the beginning of the year that Saturdays are school days. So I'd wake up, we'd still have coffee, watch the news, do our thing in the morning. But, starting around 9 or 10, like my day was work. And when I say work, I meant schoolwork. And I didn't let my work interfere. I really kept that time protected. Um, so I think getting into a routine and just being very transparent with your family and your friends, like, hey, this is just like going to work for me. It's that type of a commitment. Kind of helped me pave the path, I guess, to be successful.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I think you hit on a note that we sometimes discover when we're working with students is like, have you told anybody that you're doing this? Because that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
When you talk about the discipline of setting those boundaries, it's not easy to do. But if you can do it properly, like you have, of course, because you've succeeded, it becomes routine and you get into a groove. So those are really, even the PTO piece was a really good tip. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And Julia, we could start with you again. So, this is a very open-ended question, but what has surprised you about the program?
Um, a couple of things. One, I was pleasantly surprised. I've never taken a CMU course before. I'm not, this program was brand new to me. CMU was new to me through this program. I was pleasantly surprised by how accessible and humble the faculty are. Um, I came in with this perception that the faculty would be so esteemed and like so amazing that they talk over our heads and it might be really hard. And um, I don't know. What I found though was they're so flexible and so kind and there to support you. I mean, I've even had professors help me. I have a work question that's kind of related, but not directly related. And they'd have that conversation with me just to ensure that I'm being successful and applying what I'm learning. And so it's just like a really cool, like I said, surprise that I wasn't expecting it.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, totally agree with Julia. I got a lot of support from the professors, and that was really welcome. I mean, the format is new to me again, not being in school for 25 years. And I like it. The tools, it's super convenient, the Canvas and the Slack and the Zoom again, and having them accessible on your phone. Everything's on your phone. It's on your laptop. It's that was a nice surprise, and I'd say the multimodal format. We have like this format of having some online materials, some offline materials, some live Zoom meetings, some exercises. So it was just a nice blend of ways to learn the material. So I would say that actually the depth of the topics was really impressive. Like especially I'm thinking of like the AI operationalization and the responsible AI. They were so broad and so deep. You really could get into all aspects of it, and it's important material, and there's a lot to get into there. So, um, yeah, it's been a very very good surprise overall. No bad surprises really.
Great. Yeah. I mean, appreciate that. And I'm almost envious of both of you because like I look back at the way when I was in school, it was like you get a lecture for 2 hours and you're kind of daydreaming half the time, and then you're kind of on your own. Like that's it, and then it's finals. So it seems like there's just a lot more agility when it comes to how you can learn here, which is great. Excellent. Let's go to the next question. Ray, you can kick us off here. How have you engaged? We kind of answered this already. How have you engaged with the faculty and course materials? Maybe bring up an example of like what you would do to engage with your fellow classmates. I know you mentioned Slack, maybe some other group projects, things like that.
Sure, sure. So each week we had these like pre-recorded video presentations from the professors. So you would see that. Then there was a lot of content you could read through, and actually exercises you could do online. And this would happen all before your live class, right? So then you go through that material, then you have a live class, where you're interacting directly with the professors and the TAs and the students, to cover that material and dig into it deeper and talk about it, right? So, but yeah, we also had, let's see what else. The team projects were really interesting, where we would get grouped up with 3 to 6 students and work together, whether it was at 5 a.m. California time or what have you. We would get together, and that was really nice to work with other people in some in different industries and what have you. The projects I happened to work on, there was one in retail, one in healthcare. It was really fun. I worked with Julia, great teammate. Um, so yeah, let me see what else. I made some notes here. In fact, another thing, well, reaching out to the professors, the faculty, very easy over Slack. So if you have a question and you want to set up a meetup to talk about something, Slack was very accessible, a very good way to reach people. Uh, but another thing is, I'm from Pittsburgh, although I live in Los Angeles, and but I came to visit twice, for various reasons, and I was able to work with a couple of other students to set up some networking events. So where we met, I think one time we did a demo with a vendor called Lang Chain, and another time we did a demo. We went to a meeting with the Steel City AI innovators. Just different things where a handful of the students got together and met up and had a drink and talked and did something in AI. So that was good. It was good.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Julia, what about you?
Yeah, I think Ray covered most of the ground here. I I found that the ability to communicate via Slack was super helpful. Um, and I wasn't expecting, I was also pleasantly surprised by all of the tools that you get access to through this program. Like you're treated as a CMU student. It's not just like, oh, you're in a cert program, so you get this limited thing over here. So, we were able to like use the library materials to do extra research. I different technology. We got like Perplexity Pro access for people. So it was really nice to not just have the materials that the professor provides to you, but all of the other the benefits that the Carnegie Mellon students have as well, so that we can be successful engaging here.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. That's huge. Let's go to the next question. I know we have a few more left here, and then we'll get to the Q&A. Yeah, this is a good question. We get this quite often, and we kind of have some questions already in the chat that allude to this. So, what are some of the skills that you've been able to transfer over into your roles? Is there anything that you've been able to actually do that with currently in your work? And Julia, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, this one, oh my gosh, I have so many examples. Maybe I'll click on two or three. First, the responsible AI course. So I lead responsible AI for the organization, and I do have an expert director who reports to me, deeply knowledgeable of the technology in the space. Through that program, though, I was able to bring back information to say, hey, I know we're doing this, but this sounds more advanced than what we're doing. Might this further mature or bolster our program? And he was like, yes. And so we're actually taking some of that content and adding it into our strategy so that we can get even more ahead in that space. Um, I will also say I've given some talks externally, and Professor Rao in particular has been super helpful in ensuring that what I'm presenting, like that I'm translating my learnings into a way that's meaningful and aligned. And so that's a different angle of how I'm taking content and leveraging what I'm learning. And then the last thing I will say is even in the current class, which is building your AI organization, we just did this exercise where we're looking at risks connected to our business strategy and how does AI potentially show up in those risks or exacerbate those risks. And it's helped me reframe how I'm thinking about my organization and enterprise risk management. So again, very practical things that I'm taking back with me. And again, it also just helps me talk the talk. So when I go and talk to a technical person within our AI engineering team, because I took operationalizing AI, I now have a better like foundational knowledge of what they're saying, and I can either challenge it or get a little bit deeper than I could have before. So across the board, it's just been tremendously helpful.
That's excellent. Yeah, this is like not even close to comparing to that, but like when I went to the car mechanic the other day, they were saying things I have no idea what they're
Yeah.
talking about. And so it's very similar where you now understand a lot of that lingo, which can help you push things or pull things back. So that's huge. Thanks for sharing that. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I pretty much came in at ground zero So I've been really immersing myself in this course, just learning the fundamentals in the program. And I feel like I'm there now, right? I really have a pretty good picture of the fundamentals. And so I'm shifting gears now for myself. I'm trying to pivot my role a little, look at how to combine AI and what I've been doing, identity and access management, which is sort of a domain inside security and IT security. And it's interesting. There's a couple different plays there. I mean, you can look. I'm looking at AI driven IAM, right? How can you take AI to transform IAM in an organization? Make it more efficient, more effective, um, do it in new ways, right? So there's that angle, which is very interesting. And then you can turn it around too and look at, how can you secure AI, right? AI needs to be secured. You need to control access and understand the identities that are at play, the agent identities and what have you. So I'm looking at IAM for AI. So looking at both those angles, trying to now really I'm focusing on that material and pivot my role a little bit to be more AI driven. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. All right, I think we're on our last question, the big one. So, what advice would you give to others who are considering the program? And Ray, we can start with you. What advice would you give?
Well, let's see. I would say, yeah, you do have to consider, can you carve out the time to do it? And I mean, I highly encourage it. For me, it's been a good experience. I didn't know what to expect. I was a little nervous coming into the program, as to whether I could do it and how hard it would be. And I found it to be really, really helpful. And so I guess I would say take that step forward and go for it, you know.
Great, thanks for sharing. Julie, what about you?
I would say you get out of it what you put into it. The course is it definitely has a high degree of difficulty along with a high degree of flexibility for sure. Um, but there's also the pressures that you put on yourself. And so within each module, within each class, there are required things and then there are optional things. And depending on how advanced you want to go and how deep you want to go, you have that ability to make those choices. And so I guess I would say to you, or to anyone who's considering the program, like, be mindful that there is a baseline expectation of like you're entering a CMU program. It's like it is time intensive, but there is a baseline that's certainly very manageable with the right structure. You can, though, take it much further. It just depends on what you choose to do.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I appreciate that insight a lot. Excellent. All right, we did it. We made it through the questions, and now we're gonna do more questions, but these are gonna be your questions as the participants. Before we jump into that, like I mentioned, some of you have probably already worked with Joe. Joe is fantastic. He is our program specialist. So if you need more information or want to dive further into the program details or want to talk about the application process, Joe is going to be your go-to. So regardless, just so everyone knows who's attending, we are going to make sure to email you with a copy of this recording after the session, just so you have it in your back pocket. And you're going to have direct contact to Joe if you do want to start those conversations up, or you might be working with Joe already, which is fantastic. So we just wanted to take that time to let you know Joe's got your back. So excellent questions and answers. I know that we've had a few questions in the chat already. I think this one question is very interesting. It's about, obviously, we market this as a AI cert for non-technical leaders, but when you look at the coursework just between the both of you, like was there coursework that was very technical that you had to have like a learning curve with, or was it, being a non-technical person, was it pretty easy to digest, all said and done?
Hey, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that um, there was opportunity to dig into the technical side if you wanted, but the way the course was outlined, it wasn't necessary, right? And it was more of like an option. Like the, in fact, even some of the assignments we were given an option. Hey, you can, here's the standard assignment, but if you want to build something, if that's, what you're a more technical person, you want to build something, here's an alternate assignment you could look at that was more technical, right? So it was basically it was flexible in that you could pursue more technical work if you wanted in the program.
And I'll say, look, I came into it with a human resources and change management background. I could talk the talk, but I didn't necessarily always know what I was talking about. And I would say the most of all of the courses, the most technical of them all was operationalizing AI. But even that, we weren't putting fingers to keys and building anything. I think there were, um, certain demos that Professor Rao gave us access to that said, like, hey, go play with this, like, go try and build an agent to go do something.
Mm,
But it was low code, no code type of situation. More than anything, it just helps you understand how this technology works. The life cycle and what to look for, a lot of the lingo, but we aren't actually putting fingers to keys.
gotcha. That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. Um, we had another question that I thought was very interesting, and this came through when folks signed up. They had a chance to give us some questions beforehand. And one of them was surrounding, was there anything that you really learned that you think will help prepare you when we look at AI like 10 years from now? Because it's been changing so rapidly.
Honestly, I think the systems thinking that we learned in AI foundations was incredibly helpful because things are changing so fast. It's often we often get so caught up in just like what's immediately in front of you that you don't necessarily think two or three steps ahead and understand like the chain of effects. And having that framework and building that muscle was really helpful, I think, as we explore how this technology continues to change.
That's great. Ray, you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I mean the that was a good call out by Julia. The systems of thinking approach. We learned a lot of tools on, in that class, just ways to approach a problem and think about a problem, and that's certainly should be lasting. It is AI does seem to be, just in the year, that I've been doing it. It's hard to keep up with. I mean, um, so I do think it's a foundation, and you do have to expect in a field that's changing a lot that you're going to have to stay actively involved to keep up, but having the foundation does make a difference when, versus, coming in, if you're kind of thinking, let me wait until AI settles down and then I'm going to learn, yeah, you're probably too late, or I
Right.
guess it's better late than never, but I would say start now and build that foundation and get involved. I think it seems to be um, that AI is, becoming sort of the kind of tool or providing the kind of fundamental technology that can be implemented in a lot of different areas in the organization. So you're going to see it, you're going to use it. It's going to be work to your advantage to have that background.
Gotcha. Thanks for answering that. Um, And we did have another question about so most folks that are looking at taking this certificate, they're wanting to implement change in their current organization or their role. So is there an expectation of like sharing your situation while in the program? Or is that just that, I'm sure that's optional as a student of how much you would want to share of where you're currently working or what you're doing. But I don't think there's any, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no expectation of sharing those details while in the program.
I never felt like that I was expected to do that. I did it voluntarily because I think gave the professor information that helped them and my classmates to like help them help me kind of a situation. I will say in the course that we're in right now, this building the AI organization, it is very focused on like pick a company and use that company like through all of your assignments. It's easy to do with the company that you're at, I think. So that would be the one place where it might be more prevalent, but
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing. Anything else to add there, Ray?
No, I had the same impression that you know, it was very flexible. You could pick a topic or a company of your choice. You could use your own company um, to do projects or research on. It was very flexible.
Great. That's great. Um, And we did have another, this is a preloaded question. But Julia, you kind of mentioned this at the very beginning of the session is the networking piece. Someone's really curious about like since it's a cert, is there a lot of opportunity to network and build relationships with your fellow classmates? Since that's something that they really do value in a program.
yeah, it varies by class. I think one of the other things that pleasantly surprised me about the course is how open to feedback each of the professors were. So, like at the beginning, when we were just getting started, we didn't have as many breakout rooms and conversations during lectures and during recitation, for example. We gave that feedback and have since had that opportunity pretty consistently throughout each of the courses. Um, Even in this semester, every breakout that we've had, I've interacted with different people. Some of those people you make a connection with and you can connect with like after class or outside of class. It all just kind of varies. But I mean, Ray and I have been on like now 2 projects. We've met in person. It's been wonderful. So you find your people, I think, through the program too.
Um, We are getting some questions just about the curriculum itself. I think that's something that Joe, you can handle for sure. We get just to reiterate, like anyone that hasn't interacted with Joe, this is what Joe does each and every day. We all know that you're coming from different walks of life. You're trying to figure out, is this actually going to yield what I want? Are the courses going to yield what I want? Joe is crafted to approach those conversations and what we can actually do. I think there's a lot of power in each of the courses. If you're really looking towards like, what am I going to get out of each of these courses? We have sample syllabi that we can share with you all that'll break down by a weekly basis of what you should be achieving week over week in those skill sets. So that's something that, again, you're going to have Joe's contact after this. Feel free to schedule a call with Joe and he can walk through those details for you and supply you that information. So that's no problem at all. Um, Ooh, this is a good question. So sometimes folks, I mentioned this at the beginning, these are fully fledged, fully accredited courses. So these are not pass fail, so they are graded. I'm curious, between the two of you, like what did some of the assessment look like? Were there quizzes? Was it just one big test? I know you mentioned projects. What was the rating like for some of these courses?
Ray, you want to take that one?
Sure, sure. It was a mix of activities. We had assignments, individual assignments, and we had tests that were timed, you know, like I forget, like 20 questions, you know, 20 minutes, something like that, multiple choice type tests. And then we had projects, team projects where you know you'd have a group of 3 to 6 people who work together to deliver a report. Um, uh, I think, and then there's also participation, right? If you're showing up for the meetings, if you're there's some online exercises where you know there I think they're also looking at that. Do you complete the exercises, the online exercises? More of a participation type grading.
Yeah, that's great. And they are letter grades. So just so everyone knows that it's not just a pass or fail, you are going to get assigned a letter grade with again, a transcript, which is a huge draw for many people. Like you're going to get legitimized transcripts after this, which is fantastic with the letter grade. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, that's really helpful. All right. It looks like we're pretty much caught up on the chat. Joe, thanks for answering some of those questions in the chat. Um, Oh, this is a very simple question, but someone asked about the live sessions themselves. If they have to miss one because life happens, does that happen? Is it recorded? Can you go back and look at these recordings? Um, just trying to gain some clarity there. If any of you want to take that.
Yes to all of those things. They are recorded. Yes, you can miss them. The general practice has been, or the unwritten rule has been like, let the professor know you're not going to be there.
Right.
And what I also appreciate is that the recordings kind of remain, like you've got historic access to them, so you can go back to that course content as
That's
well.
cool. That's really helpful. Um, yeah, I think that's something that some of our prospective students forget is that they are recorded. If you do have to miss one, it's okay. Just Julia, to your point, just treat it like you're in a campus on-ground program where, you probably email the professor and tell them that you're not going to make it. So just go back to the basics of that. Makes perfect sense.
I was looking at the chat and there was a question about the responsible AI course. And if I may just say, like, I thought that course was so fascinating. You go through every single dimension of AI risk, not only what the risk is, but how to identify it, how to measure the magnitude of that risk given the situation. You think about it at a use case level, at an organization level, at a systemic and environment level. So it really builds out your thinking about AI for good and how to just how to think about all of the impacts. So on the surface, it may seem like really small or like governance heavy. It's not though. It's really interesting.
Thank you for that. That's big. And as you're speaking, we had a question about the duration of the cert. It's going to be around a year. So as we mentioned earlier, for example, I showed that slide of what it looks like if you're going to be starting this spring, which is going to be our next intake. If you start this spring, you're going to end by the end of 2026. So you'll be graduating in December of 2026 if you start in spring. So it's about a year. It cannot be shortened, unfortunately. It's just how it's designed at this point. But again, even though it can't be shortened, it's still a year. So that's been a huge draw for many folks is, when you look at things like degrees that are just a huge investment of time, this is trimmed down to match, your needs of wanting to get something within that year time frame. Yep, you're welcome. All right. Any more questions? These have all been really great questions. Really appreciate you all just, oh, here we go. Are they system thinking oriented, or is it more so foundations? I don't know if either of you want to attack that question, but I know Julia, you mentioned systems thinking. But Ray, if you want to jump in, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one of the courses is the fundamentals of AI, and that did um, focus on systems thinking approaches to AI. So I guess the answer is oh, okay, I see the question. Yeah, I would say that um, I wouldn't say that the other courses are necessarily systems thinking oriented, but there definitely was opportunities to apply what we learned in the systems thinking class to some of the work we were doing in the other classes, which I did. Some of the way I approached the work in the other classes came, out of the systems thinking, what I learned in the systems thinking. But no, it's not specifically. The other classes are not, I would say, not specifically around systems thinking.
Gotcha. Thanks for sharing that. All right. We got the thumbs up. So Ray, good job. Okay, great. Well, we will close things down. Again, Ray, Julia, thank you so much for helping us out today for the Student Spotlight. For everyone that participated and attended, thank you so much for your questions and hearing us out. We're excited to be working with you in the future. And again, Joe will be following up with everybody by the end of this week. So we're excited to continue the journey with all of you. Have a great rest of your week. And yeah, thank you again.